Hey everybody, we're back again for another off-season recap, and today we're going to be looking at the Columbus Blue Jackets. So the Columbus Blue Jackets had a pretty solid season last year. They were able to defeat the Toronto Maple Leafs in the qualifying round, but then lost to the eventual Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning in the first round of the actual playoffs. And last season was a very Columbus Blue Jackets type season. They were very good defensively, not so great offensively, and were able to, be a playoff team, but not quite make a deep run, which is pretty typical of what we've seen from the Blue Jackets in recent history. So heading into this offseason, they've made a few trades. They were very quiet on the free agent front, but they did make a few trades. But overall, it's not a drastically different Blue Jackets lineup heading into this season. So let's take a look at the moves that they made, including the biggest trade of all, which was obviously the Max Domi, Josh Anderson deal. Josh Anderson heads out to the Canadiens while Domi comes back to Columbus. And this is an interesting deal as Anderson's really struggled to stay healthy. He really didn't play a whole lot at all last year, and Columbus was ready to move on from him, so he goes to Montreal while Max Domi comes back. And Domi's a really interesting guy to insert into this Blue Jackets lineup. He's a player that can play center or wing, but has been extremely inconsistent in his NHL career with his offensive production. There are times where Max Domi looks like a first-line player and can give you 70-plus points, and there are other times where Max Domi looks more like a third or fourth-line player and really struggles offensively. And I'm really interested to see what he looks like in a Blue Jackets uniform. One thing I do think, however, that he's going to fit in really well with is just his gritty, tenacious style of play. I think that's going to work really well with the Blue Jackets and John Tortorella. And he's just a high-energy type player, and I think Tortorella likes those guys a lot. So I do think that that's a fit. I'm just interested to see what kind of what kind of point production you see out of Domi as a Blue Jacket. They also added veteran center Mikko Koivu coming in from the Minnesota Wild. He's a fourth-line player at this point in his career, maybe even an extra forward, depending on how some of the younger guys work into the lineup in Columbus. But he's a great guy to have in the locker room and an added leader for this team. They bought out Alexander Wenberg. That's a subtraction. He was not working out, so they moved on from him. They also traded Ryan Murray and Marcus Nudavara in separate deals to kind of open up some cap space. And right now, they're actually sitting on quite a bit of salary cap space. Now, they still do need to re-sign Pierre-Luc Dubois, who is their young number one center, who is certainly going to require a pretty hefty contract this year. So they need to get that done, but they still are in very good shape salary cap-wise, particularly for the flat cap era that we're in now in the NHL. They're not really in any sort of cap trouble or anything like that. So it's interesting. Their defense is still going to be really good. Even with Nudivara and Ryan Murray gone, they're so deep on the back end. They've still got their top four intact with Jones, Werenski, Gavrikov, and Savard. They did spend money on re-signing guys like Gavrikov, Kevin Stenlin, and some other guys that they needed to re-sign. Obviously, they still need to get Dubois done, but not a whole lot of big changes. Their defense is still intact. They still have the duo of Merzlikins and Korpisalo in goal. Obviously, two mid-20s goaltenders, 26 years old, who had very strong seasons last year and look to be one of the better goaltending duos in the league this coming season. And I think you're going to see a lot more of the same from Columbus. They're going to be a stout defensive team. They're going to be a hard-working team. They're going to get great goaltending. And the question with the Blue Jackets is going to be, can they score? They've got some young guys coming up that I think are going to be looking to take that next step and start to really contribute offensively. I think Alexander Texier is a guy I would look to see in their top six. And Liam Foudy is a guy that showed some signs at the end of last year that he could be a really good young player added into that lineup and might end up being a top six center for them if he can play that second line role behind Dubois, that would be a huge boost. That would let Boone Jenner go down to a third line role, which I think is a lot more fitting for what he should be playing in his style of game. So, it's going to be interesting to see what their offense is able to produce. And I think staying healthy is also going to be a big thing for the Blue Jackets. They only scored, I believe, 180 goals for last season. They struggled to score, but Cam Atkinson missed time with injury. Oliver Bjorkstrand, who was their best offensive player, or second best offensive player behind Dubois last year, he missed time with injury. So it's really going to depend a lot on if they can stay healthy. If they stay healthy, I think there'll be enough offense there for them to be a playoff team. If they do not, then I think they're just not going to have enough goal scoring to, especially with the division that they're likely to be in. There's a chance that maybe they're not a playoff team if they don't stay healthy. But one thing is for certain, they're absolutely going to be a very good defensive team. I think they're going to get great goaltending from Merzlikins and Korpisalo. That's one of the top duos in the league. And I don't really have any concerns about them keeping the puck out of their own net. My concerns with the Blue Jackets is, can they put the puck in the net enough to be a playoff team? And I think that's largely going to depend on health. If they lose scorers out of that lineup, which they don't have a lot of scorers to begin with, that's going to be an issue. If those guys can stay healthy and have good seasons, then I think they'll probably compete for a playoff spot this coming season. It's going to be tight with Columbus. I think they're going to be one of those teams that's close right there. But whether or not they make it or not is probably going to come down to right to the end of the season. And they're in competition with a lot of other good teams as well. But they're definitely going to be an interesting team to watch, and I think a lot of the young players are going to play a big role as to what this team's able to do offensively as well. And Domi, what is Max Domi going to be? Is he going to be a left winger or is he going to be a center? That's a question that we still haven't had answered yet heading into this season. And what kind of season are you going to get out of him? Are you going to get a 35, 40-point season out of him, or are you going to get a 60-point season out of him? That's another big question, that if you get 60 points out of Max Domi, that greatly improves their playoff chances. If he plays like he did in the postseason for Montreal this past year, where he's kind of struggling offensively, then you're probably only going to get like a 35-point season out of him, and that's going to hurt their offense as well. So there's a lot of questions here with the Blue Jackets. They're going to be an interesting team. Most of the questions come as far as the point production and scoring goes. I think you know exactly what you're going to get from them defensively with a John Tortorella coach team and just a hardworking, high-energy, shutdown type team. The goaltending to me is not a question. Korpisalo and Merzlikins are both very good. It's going to come down to, can this team score goals? And we're going to have to wait and see how this season goes, because I think there are guys there who can score, but they've also, some of those guys have had, kind of down seasons last year, and obviously injuries certainly played a role in that. So it's going to be interesting to see with this team just what they're able to do this coming season, and where they're able to finish as far as the standings go, and whether or not they make the playoffs or not. But those are my thoughts on Columbus. With that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, links to our Patreon merchandise store and donation link are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.